Thank you for joining us tonight. This is the May 28th, 2015 meeting of the East Fishkill Town Board. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. A few announcements for tonight. First one is a very sad one, obviously. I believe it was Saturday night. We heard all the fire trucks going down the road. Got the call that our local hardware store burned up, William Tell Hardware. Just a massive rubble over there as we speak. And I can't tell you, this has been the local hardware store as long as I can remember. This was our place, and to have it burn like that was really, really, really a tragedy, I think, for the town of East Fishkill. I was out over there Sunday, and one of the young men over there was the employee, had helped us mix deck paint like the week before, and he was devastated. And I think we all are very sad to see what happened over at William Tell. I'd like to thank our fire department who responded, and then many fire companies from outside the town of East Fishkill that have responded. I don't know how long. I think it was like 5-6 hours of just pouring water on this flaming inferno. But I know we had over 100 of our East Fishkill firefighters responded. A few minor injuries, thank goodness. There are minor injuries. Thank goodness nobody was injured in the fire. Again, it's a little tough to see William Tell in the condition it is, but I've spoken with Dave Tell, and he's working with the insurance company, and I have assured him that if he's going to rebuild, to contact us. We will sit down with the building department, the engineers, and make sure all his applications and everything are good, because, you know, William Tell Hardware was really a piece of East Fishkill for so long, and it is very, very difficult to see that happen. So I did want to just mention that. And thank our fire departments.
Supervisor, could I
sure.
add to that?
Sure.
I'd like to name all the different fire departments that did help our East Fishkill Fire Department. The Village of Fishkill Fire Department, Rombaugh Fire Department, New Hackensack Fire Department, LaGrange Fire Department, Kent Fire Department, Houstonville Fire Department, Glenham Fire Department, Beekman Fire Department, also Mobile Life Ambulance, and Dutchess County Department of Emergency Response and Investigative Unit. Also, Chelsea Fire Department and Unionville Fire Department were on standby for us during the fire. That's 11 departments helping out our East Fishkill Fire Department. We had about 100 of our members there and about 75 mutual aid that came to help, and they did an outstanding and unbelievable job.
Yes.
And I'd just like to thank all of them.
Absolutely. You know, that is really something to be said about our fire personnel throughout Dutchess County, working together the way they did, coming together to fight this fire. I'm sure it could have been a lot worse, because Pizza Village was saved. Even the hot dog wagon was saved. Unfortunately, we couldn't save the hardware store, but thank you to our fire department and all the fire departments that responded in like. So thank you very much. And we all hope that William Tell rebuilds. As Dave Tell told me, tell your wife, don't shop at any other hardware stores. So I kind of get the feeling he's anxious to come back, and my wife is anxious for him to come back too. So we look forward to that. Also, I just want to say I attended a Patterns for Progress presentation with our town comptroller last week on infrastructure. Several speakers, but I did want to say one of the speakers is Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney. I didn't speak with the congressman, but one of his aides was there, and I spoke with his aide, and as the congressman was talking about working with the governor, working with the state to get funds released, I spoke to the aide about we do have a pending grant for Hillside Lake that is now, it's up in FEMA being reviewed. It had gone up through the state office, was forwarded to FEMA. We should be hearing from FEMA, I would think, by the end of June. But I did ask Congressman Maloney's representative there, and he said, well, you know, the congressman was just saying he spoke with the governor and his staff, and one of the projects he spoke specifically about was the Hillside Lake project. So we're still getting calls for more information. We sent up another response about 2 weeks ago, emailed them, anything else, and they seem very satisfied. So I think by the end of June, we're very hopeful to have a response on our grant application for Hillside Lake from FEMA. So we'll see how that goes. Also, speaking of grants, I do want to just clarify one thing. We did get a grant for tree inventory a couple months ago, and some people, I don't know, I'm not sure what the confusion is. It's a $20,000 grant from New York State DEC. What had happened was some years, about 3 or 4 years ago, we actually had a tree limb fall down, a large tree limb fall down on a woman in a car and with her children, and they were injured, and it turned out to be the insurance claim. They went to court, and the judge ruled against the town of East Fishkill, and the insurance company had to pay $750,000. The first question the insurance company had for the town of East Fishkill, well, what about your tree program? Well, we have a tree crew, we have a highway crew, we have a tree crew. We never actually had a tree program. It's just something that developed over the years. So what we have done, and this was part of that DEC grant for $20,000, somebody came up to me this morning, said something about counting trees. It's a little bit more than that. It's actually, they're going out. We have 84 acres of recreation and public lands. We have 200 miles of public road. So the issue here is the town being responsible is making these public areas safe for the public. And the judge did rule against us, and our insurance company did pay $750,000. And I think our attorney would agree with me that if this was to happen again and the town had taken no action as in implementing a tree program, I think the settlement would be far higher than the $750,000. So what we are doing with this, and I met with the highway superintendent yesterday and our arborist, the town of East Fishkill arborist, what we're doing is we're out actually surveying the trees. We're going to be given an inventory of the trees and the condition of the trees. They're going to locate an area by GPS. This will be given to the highway department and to the arborist so we can identify trees that are going to need work. This is an issue of public safety. This is something that needs to be done, and to sit around and just say we can't do it is just not the responsible thing to do. So we're going to be looking at the town fields, town properties this year. I got to tell you, we're going to be applying to DEC again next year if the board will consent to it, because this is an ongoing process. The town of East Fishkill is 53 square miles. We have a responsibility to public to make sure that the public areas are safe. So in my mind, what I see is a several-year project, and DC actually has funds when you identify trees through this tree inventory that need work. They actually have funds to bring in tree crews to help. So this is something that needs to be done. We're not just saying, okay, let's count the trees. This is really in the name of public safety, being responsible public officials, and looking out, being sure we're doing the right thing. So the total cost to the town of East Fishkill for this tree inventory and the tree rating system is $600. The $20,000 comes from DEC. And I think it comes to $20,600. So the $600 will be paid for by the town of East Fishkill, and I think that this is a really important project that needs to be done. So that's all I had to say today on grants and the unfortunate fire at William Tell Hardware. With that, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Councilperson Cassidy.
Here.
Councilperson D'Alessandro.
Present.
Councilperson Franco.
Present.
Councilperson Marinaro.
Present.
Supervisor Hickman.
Present. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk, you submitted to the town board the minutes of the April 23rd, 2015 and the May 14th, 2015 meetings. Have there been any changes, additions, or deletions?
No, there has not.
With that, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the April 23rd and the May 14th, 2015 meetings?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Madam Clerk, I believe we have nothing under receipt and file tonight?
No, we do not.
Okay. This time on the agenda, public comments on agenda items only. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak on any item on the agenda? Okay. There being none, we move to public hearings. This item on the agenda is to reconvene the adjourned public hearing on the formation of the Town of East Fishkill Water Sewer Improvement Areas. These are the townwide improvement areas. I will ask the board to adjourn it to July 23rd. We're still awaiting some documentation and some environmental documentation on the project. One of the projects will be bringing sewer down the Route 52 corridor to IBM Global Foundries now. We've been dealing with that company. We've been negotiating with IBM originally, and then Global Foundries, and we've come to pretty close to an agreement, but we're not quite there yet. So we have a few loose ends to tie up. So I will be asking the board to adjourn the public hearing until the July 23rd meeting. By that time, I'd expect we should have everything, wrapped up. But that being said, I did want to make sure the board is comfortable with this, because what we're going to be doing is forming the townwide water and sewer improvement areas. And what that does, that allows us to bond. We have to go to the bond market because the Route 52, the sewer line for the Route 52 from the West Complex to IBM, the Global Foundries sewer plant, will run roughly $1 million. So that being the case, we're going to need to go to the bond market to borrow $1 million to do this project. This project is incredibly important to the town of East Fishkill, because if you don't have sewer and water, you really cannot have economic development. As everybody's driven by the West Complex, and except for the trees being cut down, there's nothing going on down there. So we're looking at that, but I want to make sure the board is comfortable with bonding. So I asked Mark if he would take a look at our outstanding bonding. And Mark, what is we have a legal, based on the townwide assessment, New York State gives us the legal authority to bond up to what amount?
Up to $265 million.
200 what?
65 million.
265 million is that's the maximum amount that New York State would allow us to bond up to.
Correct.
Okay, and our outstanding bonds at this moment?
At the beginning of the year, it was $23 million.
$23 million we have outstanding. So basically, we're less than one-tenth of what we could legally bond.
Right, and most of the debt that we have is
Special
exempt
districts.
from the
Yes.
debt limit as well.
Yeah.
All water debt and sewer debt by application.
Water and sewer districts. What do we have outstanding in the general fund as far as outstanding debt?
The only debt we have in the general fund is a borrowing on behalf of the library. The bond matures in 2016, and it's $110,000.
$110,000 we have outstanding in the general fund.
At the beginning of the year, yes.
So, when you look at our debt, we talk about bonding. A couple of the projects we did bond for was to purchase Four Corners Water and Sewer. I think we purchased them for $1.2 million, which was a very good deal to purchase a relatively new water and sewer plant. I did bring this too. I want people to understand, when we bond, we don't just bond to bond. We bond to do projects. This is actually the water that used to come from Fishkill Plains water system. And when it was privately owned, this is the water. This water served, I believe 600 residents and 2 schools. We fought with the Board of Health. We fought with the private operators. We fought with a lot of people. And this is the water that they were actually getting in their pipes. So what we ended up doing was we approached the private operators, and we said, look, this isn't working. We're going to buy it. I believe, Tom, you recall the original price, they wanted $1.2 million. We got it for $850,000.
Correct.
We spent $450,000 on filters, and we had a gentleman in here, probably last meeting or meeting before, thanking us for his water that comes from Fishkill Plains Water since we bought the system. So I make this point to say, we don't have a lot of debt out there, but the debt that we have out there, we do for a purpose. We do it to clean up water like this, which really, this was a problem for, I would say, at least 6 or 7 years. But we will be looking to borrow some money for the Route 52 project to bring water and sewer down there. We have some other water systems that need some work. But besides the outstanding, the water and sewer debt, I think, what do we have, $2 million in highway?
A little over $2 million for highway paving and equipment.
And that was from quite a few years ago. We did some paving, and we bought some trucks and some equipment.
It was originally borrowed, I think, in '05 and then again in '09,
Yeah. And we paid it down to about $2 million.
about 2.1, and we've, spent the last of it on equipment and paving last year.
That's right. We had a little left over. So we're very, very, very responsible when it comes to bonding. I don't want anybody to think when we talk bonding, oh, they're just bonding. Again, the only bonding we have out in the general fund is for the library, because when they became a special district, the law said they couldn't hold a private mortgage anymore. So we did the bond for the library and actually saved them.
And the library can't borrow on its own. Under
That's what it
state
was,
law,
yeah.
it has to be borrowed by the town.
Yeah.
And also, Supervisor, I think you should mention that the borrowing for water and sewer districts is only paid back by the residents who are connected to the water or sewer or have them available, so that the only debt all of us taxpayers are paying, even who don't have water and sewer, is the highway debt. And of course, the whole town is part of the East Fishkill Library District. So we all pay that.
Yeah. So I just want the board to be comfortable with what we do, because we are not reckless at all with our debt. What is our bond rating, Mark? AA2?
Yes.
AA2. So we're very, very responsible with our debt. And thank you, Tom, for that, because only the people, like you see the water in that bottle, the only people that are paying for that Fishkill Plains Water District and the filters are the people that are actually in that district and purchasing that water. So that being said, we will be talking about the formation of a town-wide water and sewer improvement area, and I would like to adjourn that to the July 23rd, as we are waiting still some documents and still working out some details with IBM and Global Foundries. So that being said, do I have a motion to adjourn the public hearing and formation of the town of East Fishkill Water Sewer Improvement Area to July 23rd?
John, before we do that,
Yes.
can we clarify something for the community? So we are going to be bringing, Scott, water and sewer from our plant over here to the area of where IBM is. Is that the
No,
plan?
and you could ask me, Councilman, I can tell you, he's the engineer. But that is a separate system. That's the enterprise system that will be forming up towards the EPA. The Ryan Drive Superfund site is going to be getting their water from across the street. Where we're talking about getting the sewer and water down on Route 52 is we will be putting a sewer line, which is going to be about $1 million, from the corner of the old IBM West complex. There will be what they call a pump station there, and they're going to bring it up through John Jay. We're going to take a lot of those businesses out there, incorporate them in John Jay High School, and then go up to IBM to a manhole over there. As far as the water down there, we're actually negotiating also with IBM for 200,000 gallons of water a day, because they have excess capacity of water. So these will be two contracts that will be coming before this board, I would think, next month for approval. So that is kind of a separate area, and it's always been tough down there, because we've looked at bringing water down there from up here, but it's just the logistics of the length and the terrain. There's a lot of rock there.
So for the future, we do have enough of a supply for future construction in the area over there, or do we have to go to a different route?
No, we
later on?
always plan to have extra.
So there's plenty of water and sewer we could, not only for the complex,
Yeah.
but even for future construction.
Absolutely, because we need to look for expansion. And especially, my thing is, I think it's so important to be expanding in the tax base, the industrial base, and creating jobs. And
Just clarify.
And also, actually, the water supply that, once there's an agreement with IBM to take some of their water that they get through the county line, that water will be in the Shenandoah pipe, and that will give us, and with the construction of the gas station here on Lake Drive, that developer is required to bring a sufficient water main under 52 up Lake Drive, which gets us at least now a supply of water to those residents in Lake City who have filter systems because of the contamination. And we have been trying to get DEC to work with us to come up with some funding to allow us to then run the pipeline in that community and get those folks off the filter systems. But the sewer will be by virtue of a contract. IBM's plant, I think, has millions of gallons of extra capacity. And it would also enable the school district to discontinue their separate treatment facility at a cost savings to the school district, because their part of the cost to connect to this system would be far less, so that the taxpayers of Wappinger would have a savings.
Actually, it's a win-win situation. So, does that answer your question, Councilman?
Yeah, it's just clarifying.
No problem, no problem.
Thank you.
With that, do I have a motion to adjourn the public hearing formation of the Town of East Fishkill Water Sewer Improvement Area to July 23rd?
So,
Do I have a second?
second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. That's the public hearings for this evening. And now we move to the resolutions. The first resolution is to authorize the promotion of a police officer to a police sergeant. And I'm going to ask Councilman Cassidy to read the resolution. But before I do, I would just like to make one mention. You know, promotion is promotion, and we have a lot of very fine police officers and police officers and supervisory staff in the Town of East Fishkill Police Department. I'm very, very proud of our police department. And one of the people that I've always been very fond of and very proud of is Officer Mike DeLuca. Because, you know, this is my 10th year as supervisor. And Michael, it's so funny, and Michael's always been working nights. And originally, when I first took office, we had some issues on the night shift. And I know Michael remembers, we used to get a lot of complaints from up in the Stormville area on the night shift. And Mike would come in, and I didn't ask him, but Mike would just come in and say, you know, I just got off the night shift, and this is what's going on up there. And Michael, when I got woken up once 3 o'clock in the morning, I do remember that one too. Somebody forgot to lock the back door to the town hall. That wasn't you, though, Mike. I think you called. You called the sergeant, and the sergeant called me. That's what it was. So, yeah, it's kind of tough being the sergeant because I didn't forget that one. So, but Michael, I got to tell you, I'm very proud of our police department, and I'm very proud of you. And I've always looked at you as being one of the people that we can truly depend on. And just a simple resolution doesn't say that. But, Councilman, if you read the resolution.
I thought Michael retired 3 years ago until I saw him at Community Day. I didn't know he still worked here. That's not true. Whereas the current police sergeant is out due to work injury, whereas the chief of police is requesting a town board to promote Michael DeLuca to a sergeant position in the East Fishkill Police Department, whereas Michael DeLuca has successfully passed the civil service test for sergeant possession, and now therefore be resolved that Michael DeLuca to be hereby promoted to the position of sergeant in the East Fishkill Police Department, and be it further resolved that his compensation and benefits shall be in accordance with the existing collective bargaining agreement, and be it further resolved that this appointment shall be effective on May 29th, 2015, and be it further resolved that the said appointment is subject to the probationary period as set forth in civil service law.
Thank you, Councilman Cassidy. Do I have a motion to appoint Michael DeLuca to the position of sergeant in the East Fishkill Police Department?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Congratulations, Michael. Now, I don't know if anybody has a camera. Does anybody have a camera? Well, then the town board has to come down, and we have to take a picture, and you have to get your badge. So it's kind of a thing we do.
There's nobody working in town tonight. There's no cops in town working. We're all here.
He said nobody's working. Nobody's here.
There'll be no rest tonight. Go Robert back. Hey, Chief. Thank you. Good. Retirement agrees. Looks like it.
They all do.
They all do. I'm sorry.
Mike. Going in there for us, Michael.
How many years ago did he go to Midnights?
No, position.
Hey, Brian, how many years ago did he go to Midnights? How many years ago did he go to Midnights? Yeah.
Tell me he's got to leave. Tell me he's got to leave.
There you go.
Where they all go?
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
All righty. Thank you very much. Moving on to resolution number 2. To adopt the final order establishing the Hopewell North Water District, there was a public hearing that was held, I believe it was May 28th, was that correct?
March
March 28th at the East Fishkill Fire Headquarters. I have a resolution before us. Resolution making certain determinations in relation to and finding it to be in the public interest to establish a water district in the town of East Fishkill, Dutchess County, New York, to be known as the Hopewell North Water District. Do I have a motion to adopt this resolution making certain determinations in this fact?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. And actually, this water system is going to be built by the EPA, and hopefully, if it gets approved by Congress, it will be fully funded by the EPA or the capital costs for that project. So, and those people need the water, so let's hope Congress will approve it. Number 3 is to award the bid for the construction of Julie's Jungle. I'd just like to make one little comment on Julie's Jungle. Knowing the board of Julie's Jungle, is a bunch of dedicated individuals, and they put a lot of work into this. When they did the design for Julie's Jungle, they met with a lot of professionals, a lot of people in the business, and through a lot of hard work, they picked specific equipment for the design of the Julie's Jungle playground. And what my understanding is that this equipment is very specific to not only meet various needs, but also to provide a sort of a therapy, physical therapy or mental therapy for the children that will be using this. So I just can't stress how important it was that the equipment that was in the bid was the equipment that was bid. So just want to say that. The resolution awarding bid for the construction of handicapped accessible playground at Limekiln Park. Whereas advertisement for bids was done by the town clerk. The bid opening was held on March 31st. The bids were publicly open and recording. Each bid was reviewed by the town engineer and the Julie's Jungle Playground Committee. Whereas bid specs did allow for comparable products, and the 2 lowest bidders failed to comply with the requirements in the bid specs for comparable products in that they did not provide evidence that the proposed product did not require revisions to the contract documents, and no detailed comparison of significant qualities of proposed product were provided. The town engineer's recommendation, dated April 30th, 2015, is attached here too and made part thereof. Upon this board's review of the bids, it concerns and accepts the town engineer's recommendation. Now therefore be resolved that bid number RD 2014.00 be and hereby is awarded to Raymond Michael LTD for the base bid of $302,984. Be it further resolved that the supervisor be and hereby is authorized to execute any documents required. And be it further resolved that $100,000 is appropriate from the Rec Development Fund, $200,000 is from the Community Development Block Grant Funds from Dutchess County, and the balance of funds for this site prep from Julie's Jungle nonprofit. And be it further resolved that the town clerk will return the bid bonds to the unsuccessful bidders. Do I have a motion to award the bid for construction of handicapped accessible playground at Lime Kiln Park?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much, and I got to tell you, another round of applause for Julie Jungle. Just a phenomenal project, and the awards have been bid, and the bids have been awarded, and I'm just really thrilled with this. So thank you very much for everybody who put all that work into this, and this is just the beginning. The fourth resolution set to public hearing, consider rezoning petition. Councilman D'Alessandro, would you read the resolution, please?
Now schedule a public hearing for a rezoning, whereas the owners of the property located at grid number 6458-04-720105 have petitioned the town board to consider rezoning the property from R1 residential to B1 commercial. And the comments have been received from the planning board and the Dutchess County Department of Planning. And now therefore be it resolved that the town board does hereby set a public hearing on this matter to be held on July 23rd, 2015 at 7 p.m.
Thank you, Councilman. And I see everybody will see attached to the resolution the referral from Dutchess County Development Planning and Zoning, no comments, matter of local concern, and a memo from the Secretary to the Planning Board that the Planning Board felt this was a reasonable request and would agree to having the parcel rezoned. So with those documents, we will set the public hearing for July 23rd, 2015. Do I have a motion to authorize that?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. This one, just to do a little explanation on this one. Talking about the water and sewer down at our industrial complex down on Route 52. New York State, in their infinite wisdom, has provided a large amount of grant funding for projects, and the projects that are eligible for this: community development block grants, waterfront revitalization, energy grants, environmental improvements, sustainability planning and improvements, and the list does go on. But they do have specific grants that are eligible just for economic development. I've spoken to our planner, Michelle Robbins from AKRF, and she has done grants for other municipalities. AKRF works for a lot of other towns and cities. And we were discussing it, and she looked at this. She's very familiar with the CFA, the Consolidated Funding Application from New York State. And we talked about the possibility of her making an application for us on behalf of this project on Route 52 to bring the sewer. Now, when I say it's going to cost us approximately $1 million to bring the pipe from the corner of the West Complex to the IBM Global Foundries sewer plant, that will be, as the attorney had said before, that cost actually will be borne by all those businesses that are in that district. It will not be borne by the town taxpayers at large. It will only be borne by those that are hooked up or in the sewer district down there, those that benefit from it. But because whatever we can do to help business, if we can get this grant, we can actually lower the cost of their sewer. And if we can lower the cost of their sewer, it would help entice more businesses to come in. So I've asked Michelle if she would consider writing a grant for the town of East Fishkill for our sewer project down there, the Route 52 sewer project. And she said she would. She has staff that work with her. I asked her the cost. She said it would probably run no more than $5,000. I do have on the resolution up to up to $5,000. Sorry about that. Up to $5,000, and I did put on the resolution up to $6,000, just in case there's any overruns, she needs any plans or anything like that. Michelle is very good, very professional, and I would like to give her the chance to make this grant application for us. The grant application is due early July. You don't hear, you would not get the results until, I believe, the end of the year. It is a 75-25 grant, which would mean the town would have to pay 25%. So if we were approved, we could see the state paying $750,000 and the town only have to pay $250,000. But this $250,000, again, would be borrowed through a bond on behalf of those people in the district. So this could be a huge benefit for any businesses coming in to the West Complex and along the Route 52 corridor. So $5,000 Michelle requested to make the application, and I think talking with Michelle, and she's been to the classes on it, the criteria, we do have an old IBM site down there, which is very big. It's on a main road. That site is completely empty. The IBM East site has 40% vacancy. We feel this would actually dovetail very well with what the governor would like to fund, so I'd like to make that application. So I'm putting that out to the board now. Questions, thoughts, and concerns?
I have some concerns. A couple of weeks ago, I came across this book over here. It's called Saving Congress from Itself. It's written by a retired conservative Senator James Buckley. I just want to share some thoughts about grants, if you allow me a couple of minutes.
Sure.
Eliminate all federal grants in aid to states and local governments. This action will reduce federal spending by over $600 billion a year and have a profound effect on how we govern ourselves. The proliferation of federal grants in aid programs is of recent vintage. Only about 100 such grants existed before Lyndon Johnson took office. And now, their number are more than 1,100. Eliminating grants to the state will result in enormous savings to federal and state administrative costs, free states to set their own priorities and improve the design and implementation of programs now subsidized by Washington. By eliminating federal regulation, in short, it will free states and their subdivisions, which includes our community, to resume full responsibility for all activities that fall within their competence, such as education, welfare, highway constructions, and maintenance. One other thing I just want to read quickly. The United States faces two major problems today: runaway spending that threatens the bankruptcy of our government, and these long-term problems have significant source of each of the category of the federal expenditure that has somehow escaped the notice it deserves. I refer to federal grants to state and local government that have soared from $24.1 billion in 1970 to an estimated $640.8 billion in 2015. They all come with frightening, detailed federal directives that deprive state and local officials, again, that's us, of the ability to meet their own responsibilities in their own ways and undermine their citizens' ability to ensure that their taxes will be used to meet local priorities rather than those of distant bureaucracies. I know that we spoke briefly in the past about this, as some of my colleagues over here said that grants are like a rebate check. But, you know, all these little grants here and there, I just want to reemphasize that it is disturbing, and I'd rather use public funds. I know John and I, we spoke, and I don't want to see grants application for anything that we don't need to.
Councilman, what you read there, I agree with 100%.
Yeah.
But you were talking about federal grants. This is a state grant. This is where the states have the rights to choose that money and spend it where they believe
In our state.
it's important, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Right.
And to be honest with you, I do believe that it's a rebate check. Why should we forfeit our money, our taxpayers' money, and not fight to get it back for them? To me, that tells me that you're not for the taxpayer. If you're for the taxpayer, why aren't you fighting to get their money back?
I'm all for the taxpayer, Tom, and I'd rather keep our local taxes in our localities. What this is
We're
talking
going to raise our taxes
about,
then to pay for this.
I'm sorry?
Then we're going to raise the taxes to pay for this.
You don't need to raise the taxes. This is a private project.
The money.
This is a private project.
Well,
It's going to benefit the private industry, and they could pay for some of this infrastructure. I'm not trying to say that the public in East Fishkill has to pay for these services. Okay, but my point is that, as we all know, every time we take a grant, either from the state, which comes from the federal government, or the federal government, your responsibility to these people, your hands get tied, because our federal government, and we all know what goes on in the planning boards when projects come in front of us, all of those are federal regulations. They're not imposed by you and I.
So if that's the case, should we tell Hillside Lake that we should call Congressman Maloney and say, you know what, forget about the grant?
I said this before. I was
So are
opposed.
you going to be on record?
I said this before in the past, even regarding El Sal Lake, okay? And John could testify to that. Before I was actually elected, I was sitting in those chairs, that I was against those grants.
Yep.
Okay, it is a local responsibility. It is a local responsibility that should be taken care of locally. Once we get involved with the federal government,
Taxes on the people of East Fishkill.
I just want the rest of the board to know that our hands and our responsibility to the citizens of this community, they get tied up in the federal bureaucracy, and they're taking the right away. It doesn't matter. If you trace that grant, it will come from the federal government. That grant comes from the federal government. It streamlines to the state, and all the administrative facts that we have to abide by, it's all in black and white. I'm not saying that we got to spend additional taxes. Our taxes should be kept over here. It's just
Grants were reduced
matter is-
once by Ronald Reagan. That's the only time that we ever had grants reduced since LBJ. And he pushed for more block grants, which, from my understanding, that's what this is.
What I just said is
And it gives the
figure-
states the right to
Okay.
choose where they want to spend their money.
May I interrupt for a moment?
Sure, John.
And I agree with James Buckley, and I know we all actually agree with that. The whole landscape, I would much rather if New York State would not give grants for specific economic zones if they just lower the taxes statewide for everybody, but that would be probably, in my mind, a better idea. But that's not going to happen. The grants are available. A lot of these grants, I do believe, came through from the settlement from a lot of the big banks that settled with their fines and things like that. Not that that's a way to do it either. But to your point, Councilman, obviously, if we don't get the grant, whoever's in that district, the costs are going to be, that is the tax you're talking about, will be higher. So this just will help for economic development, which is a New York State grant, and which is what they're looking to do.
I have one more question, though. What's the solution? Does the book have a solution?
Well, the book has the solutions, yeah.
What's the solution to the grant problem?
Just briefly, I will tell you, is that I'm going to invite this gentleman to come and speak to the community, and
Jim Buckley?
But
Yes.
what is the solution?
The
What's
solution
gonna,
is to-
how are we going to stop it? How are we going to stop the grant process?
To tell your congresspeople and senators that the money should stay in our localities rather than send it to the federal, because we want nothing to do with the federal government. When our projects come in front of our boards, and the cost that those projects have to go through, public and private, it's because, and probably Tom that sits in those meetings could testify to that, is because we have to abide by secret regulations, which is nothing but federal mandates.
And you're going to
And all
get
the
every municipality to get on board with that.
It's a start. How do we get from
Okay.
1970
I think
to
we're getting,
2015?
we're getting a
The
little,
proliferation of grants, right? It started with
we're
LBJ.
getting-
I'm very well aware of it.
Yeah.
I know the history.
So
okay.
And I don't like federal grants.
the federal
I
government
don't
taking
like, I agree
over,
with you. I agree with that.
the federal government taking over, and again, I'm stressing the fact that once this happens, our power in this town to really have power over our citizens.
I understand.
Where
that.
there
This
is
is a state grant.
Okay. Gentlemen, I think we're getting a little bit off kilter here, a little bit.
Well, it's not really.
It's
I
a
mean,
philosophical.
It's a discussion about grants.
It's a philosophical debate, obviously.
It's
I
really
think-
not a
and I
philosophical
think-
debate.
And I think we agree on a
It's
lot
an
of these.
economic, social
And I-
debate.
I want to fight for the taxpayer to get their money back in our community.
That we take for granted that this stuff.
I think we all agree. I think we agree on a lot of that.
Good.
I do see that there are some good things that do come down from the federal government on occasion. I do not care for over-regulation by any means. But that being said, this is a grant that New York State is giving out. They're giving out hundreds of millions of dollars. We're going to be requesting $1 million for a sewer line. And that's basically what I'm asking the board tonight. I'm not asking the board to give up our future to New York State, simply asking if the board would consider making an application for a grant for a $1 million sewer line. That being said, do I have a motion to authorize our planner to make a grant application on behalf of this project to the consolidated funding application, which is due in July? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, will you poll the roll, poll the board, please?
Councilperson Cassidy.
Aye.
Councilperson D'Alessandro.
Aye.
Councilperson Franco.
Aye.
Councilperson Marinaro.
No.
Supervisor Hickman.
Aye. Thank you, Madam Clerk. I do, and philosophically, I believe we really do all agree. Unfortunately, New York State, or fortunately, they're making this money available, and if it is for economic redevelopment, that is what we're trying to do here, and it does seem to fit the bill. That being said, resolution number 6 to authorize bond reduction for Hopewell Glen is recommended by the Planning Board. Councilman Franco, would you read resolution number 6?
Whereas Toll Brothers, the developer of the Hopewell Glen subdivision, has requested a reduction in the performance bond previously posted, and whereas the Town Planning Board has reviewed said request and recommended a reduction to the Town Board, and now therefore be it resolved that the performance bond posted by Toll Brothers for the Hopewell Glen subdivision in the amount of $1,455,300 be and hereby is reduced to $291,100 for Phase 5.
Thank you very much, Councilman. And we have the documentation from the Planning Board and from the Town Engineer supporting this bond reduction. Do I have a motion to authorize the bond reduction to Toll Brothers?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Can I ask the engineer? It says 87 building permits were issued, 77 COs. How many more are capable of being built out?
I think the total build-out is 295.
292, I thought it was.
292?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Resolution number 7 is to authorize release of the mine reclamation bond and accept the performance bond for Jackson Corners Phase 2. Councilman Cassidy, would you read that, please? Or Councilman Marinaro, would you read that, please?
Whereas the developers of Jackson Corner subdivision previously posted a letter of credit with the town in the sum of $250,000 to ensure the completion of the work under a mining permit granted by New York State DEC as part of the construction of a subdivision, and whereas said work has been complete and the developer wishes to file Phase 2 map, and whereas based on the recommendation of the Planning Board, performance bond in the sum of $250,000 should be posted to ensure the completion of the Phase 2 improvements. Now therefore be it resolved that the town clerk be and hereby is authorized to release the present letter of credit in the sum of $250,000 posted by the Mid-Hudson Development with respect to the Jackson Corner subdivision mining reclamation upon a receipt by her of the new letter of credit in the sum of $250,000 guaranteeing the performance bond for the completion of the improvements in Phase 2, and be it therefore resolved that said letter of credit and performance bond shall be subject to review and approval of the town attorney.
Thank you, Councilman. And Tom, this was actually because they had a letter of credit in regards to the mining operation out there, and they're going to turn that into a performance bond.
Correct.
For
And
the,
at the request of the bank wanted to substitute a different letter of credit with different dates.
Okay.
So the board's releasing one and accepting the other.
for the same amount.
And the work on the mining reclamation was this subdivision had a mountain that was taken down, and they
Yeah.
needed a permit from DEC. And that work has been completed. That's what the original bond was for. Now they'll build the road and the couple of lots.
Okay, so it's going to go to that
And they've
performance
already
bond.
performed. That's why the bond's only $250,000.
Oh. Okay, good. Thank you very much. Do I have a motion authorizing the exchange of letters of credit with respect to the Jackson Corner subdivision Phase 2?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Councilman Franco, this is recreation. Would you like to
Sure.
read this one, if you wouldn't mind?
Authorizing new drainage and lighting on the McGrath Field. Whereas the town would like to authorize drainage and lighting for the McGrath Field, and whereas the town engineer has developed a plan to properly install drainage and lighting to the McGrath Field, and it is the desire of the town board to authorize said project and appropriate funds therefore. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board does hereby authorize the installation for drainage and lighting, and be it further resolved that the town board does hereby appropriate from the rec department fund the sum up to $450,000 for said project, and be it further resolved that the bid shall be reviewed and awarded by the town board.
Thank you, Councilman. New drainage and lighting for the McGrath Field is something the Rec Board has been requesting for some time. I do believe we have a memo from the Rec Board. We have a memo from the town engineer regarding the costs of said project. And that being said, I believe that it kind of coincides with our Lake Walton project, and when we have the millings, I think that'll help become the base for the road, which will save us money on this project that we have before us. So, do I have a motion to authorize the bid for the new drainage and lighting on the McGrath Field?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Can I give a question? Mark, what's roughly in the rec development fund still after what we spent?
About 1.1.
Presently, about 1.14 million in the rec development fund, so this would draw it down, if it were exhausted in full, to about 700,000.
Okay. Thanks.
And if that savings, Scott, would it delay the project?
Delay it from being completed this year?
Yeah.
Well, the timing will be critical with the Lake Walton project, so we're in about a 1-month window of time frame. So I know the community day, that was brought to my attention, I think is September 19th. So, we'll do everything we can to meet that deadline.
All right. Thank you.
Resolution number 9 is to accept the letter of retirement and rehire for a part-time cleaner. Whereas, due to New York State retirement requirements, part-time cleaner must retire and be rehired as a part-time cleaner for East Fishkill. Town Board has received retirement request from our cleaner, and the Town Board accepts the retirement date of May 28, 2015, and the Board understands that the cleaner is to be rehired as of June 2, 2015, and she will retire, and I think we just went through that. Salary for paid position will be $10.78 per hour. Actually, she's retiring from her regular full-time job, plus our part-time job as cleaner. She would like to come back, though, as a cleaner. She's allowed to make so much and collect her pension. The salary for said position will be $10.78 per hour. Do I have a motion to accept the letter of retirement, which is attached, and rehire the part-time cleaner?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried. Authorized use of the Route 52 facility for July 19th. Councilman D'Alessandro, would you read draft resolution number 10, please?
Whereas East Fishkill Rotary Club have made a request to utilize the Route 52 soccer fields for a car show Rotary fundraiser, and the Recreation Advisory Board has reviewed and has recommended to the Town Board to approve the request. And it is the desire of the Town Board to allow the East Fishkill Rotary Club to utilize the Route 52 soccer fields for such activity. Now therefore be it resolved that permission is hereby granted to the East Fishkill Rotary Club to utilize the Route 52 soccer fields on Sunday, July 19, 2015, from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. That no alcoholic beverages will be allowed on the property at said time. And be it further resolved that a certificate of insurance naming the town of East Fishkill in a form acceptable by the town attorney should be provided to the town 10 days prior to the use of the facility.
Thank you, Councilman. Do I have a motion to authorize use of the Route 52 facility for the use by the Rotary Club?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Got to support our Rotary. They do a lot of good work. Resolution number 11 is to authorize the hiring of a part-time seasonal laborer in the Highway Department. Councilman Cassidy, would you read that, please?
Whereas seasonal help is needed at the Highway Department, and whereas the Highway Superintendent is requesting the Town Board hire Jordan Kramer as a part-time seasonal laborer for the Highway Department. And now therefore be resolved that the Town Board does hereby appoint Jordan Kramer as a part-time seasonal laborer in the Highway Department. Be it further resolved that the appointment, that he would be paid $10.50 per hour, and he'll be hired from May 11th to August 21st, 2015.
11.50 an hour.
11.50.
You docked him $1 an hour already?
Yeah.
Well, he's late.
That poor kid. That poor kid.
I'll give him 11.
All right, 11.50 an hour. The highway superintendent does, on occasion, when he needs help in the summer months, bring in seasonal help. He has requested that we hire Jordan Kramer for the salary of $11.50 for the pay of $11.50 per hour. Do I have a motion to appoint this laborer at the highway department?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Highway Superintendent and Jordan Kramer, thank you. Finally, I do have one from the floor, and this one just came up today, and I was kind of surprised I didn't get a chance to email everybody. Part-time staff at Limekiln Recreation Facility. Typically, we would reappoint the entire staff out there at the end of April. Somehow it escaped the April agenda. Nobody brought that up. The appointments are, with the employees are Julie Morrow, Robert Pasquicello, Christine Selbeck, Jeffrey Kananishow, I'm sorry, Jeff, James Tomaszowski, and Kristen O'Connor. And we have the table of their rec assistant, part-time seasonal, their wage table along with it. Basically, I'm just asking the board tonight, we do this is an annual appointment of the part-time staff at Limekiln. So do I have a motion to reappoint the part-time staff at the Limekiln Recreation Facility?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Opposed?
Okay. Resolution adopted. And Councilman Marinaro, you're going to have to go fill in over Limekiln there from probably the 2 in the afternoon till the 4 shift, all right? Only kidding. This is just one of the things that we do every year, and
If it were up to me, I would close the facility.
oh my goodness, no. We actually have a lot of good stuff out there, but I guess I'm not going to assign you over Limekiln then. All righty. Thank you. That's the end of the resolutions for this evening, and we do have no budget transfers tonight. Is that correct, Comptroller? No budget transfers?
Not tonight.
Okay, very good. Now, time. Is there anybody in the audience who would like, we take public comments on general town issues? Anybody in the audience would like to speak? Just please come up to the podium here.
Good evening. I would like to ask the town attorney a question, if I may. Mr. Wood, I have heard that the board discussed tax certiorari's. Can you please explain what that is?
All properties in the town are given an assessment by the town assessor, and annually, in fact, it was just this past Tuesday, if a property owner disagrees with the value that's been placed on a property, they have the right to file a grievance with the assessor and the town tax board of review. If they are still dissatisfied with the decision of the board of review, they have the right to file a proceeding in the Supreme Court in Poughkeepsie challenging it, and that's a tax certiorari where a judge of the Supreme Court reviews the values, the appraisals, etc., and renders a decision either supporting the appraisal as is, modifying it, or anything in between.
So the board will ultimately vote to lower the taxes of an individual or group who challenge their tax assessment?
Well, what happens
that
then
correct?
is normally after a conference with the judge, sometimes there's a settlement reached where the town's independent appraiser and the appraiser for the property owner come to an agreement as to a value. It then comes back on the town board agenda. The town board, because this normally takes place after all the taxes have been collected, etc. So the town board has to authorize it, and then the judge approves it, and then the various taxing entities refund the money, the school district, the town, the county, and if there's any special districts.
As it comes before us, and typically, as you've heard, we've done many certiorieries, and usually I ask the attorney, is there money out of pocket or what have you, and it's returned as per the agreement from the court or the court settlement.
Okay, all right, thank you. Councilman Marinaro, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, but your brother is the owner of Blue Fountain, which is also Do Realty. Do you have any association with that property? On April 24th, you did not recuse yourself from voting on your brother's tax reduction, and according to public record and video of that meeting, you voted in favor of it. Don't you think by not recusing yourself and voting in favor of that motion, it's unethical? This is either incompetence or highly unethical. Which do you think? Over the months, you have explained a lot of your opinions, but your actions speak louder than your words. I thank you for your time.
May I respond?
Typically, this is a time, but certainly I think that we can make an exception if you would like to respond.
She addressed me, I think I need to address the response.
Yeah.
The Blue Fountain, the owner of the Blue Fountain is my brother. I have no affiliation with that institution, that business. That's my brother's business. As the town lawyer just explained before, tertiary taxes is they go through a procedure, and when they come in front of the board, we just okay for that money to be given back to the taxpayer if it's being overtaxed. Now, I have to be clear. I have to go back to the tape since you paid so much attention to that incident and see how I voted, if I voted on that. And if I did vote, I think I'm wrong. I should have recused myself. But that vote would have not determined whether or not that tax would have been given to that owner of that property, because that's decided by the judge. It's not decided by me.
Okay, we'll come back to this as a board in a few minutes. Anybody else in the audience like to speak on anything? And then I would like to come back to this topic when the board has our comment period. Anybody like to make any comments on general town issues?
Good evening. I'd like to make a comment regarding the street sweeping in the town of East Fishkill. About 2 weeks ago, no, exactly 2 weeks ago, I made several phone calls trying to get a resolve to the roads within Hillside Lake. Councilman Cassidy was one of those phone calls. Even though it was touched upon at the workshop meeting 2 weeks ago, there had apparently been a resolve where that was going to be taken care of around Hillside Lake per se, where the storm water physically drains into Hillside Lake. And that was going to happen last week, according to that, my understanding in the conversation that I had with other town representatives. That ended up not happening. I even gave illustrations of the sediment that flows into Hillside Lake as a result of the streets not being swept. Subsequent to that, as recent as yesterday when we had heavy downpours, the majority of the residual sand and salt and whatever pollutants accumulate in the curbing that are part of the town roads drained into Hillside Lake. The streets being swept in the perimeter of Hillside Lake and those that drain into Hillside Lake should be a priority of the town, given the status of what that lake is, a 303D impaired water body. This has been going on for years, and I thought we had a resolve that that was going to be accomplished. if the town highway department doesn't want to do it or can't do it, then it should be contracted out and taken out of the budget of the highway department. I'm very dissatisfied with the end result that didn't happen that I was told was going to happen. That's that comment. I do have a question, and I wanted to know if anybody in the town can share the results of the aerial infrared photography that's been taken.
This is for comment period only, but if you'd like to speak with myself or the engineer afterwards, we can discuss that.
I believe it's followed by comments from town board members, so maybe you'll choose to speak at that time regarding that question. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak on general town issues?
Good evening. Regarding the sweeping, my property is not on the road that was just mentioned, that drains into the lake. But all I want to say is that going forward next year, I think that we need to do a better job with street sweeping than what we've been doing. Last year, they were sweeping while there was snow on the ground. This year, it's a disaster with the dust, and it's really a hazard. I would expect that the town board really take a look at this and direct it to whoever might be responsible for this. If they need more sweepers to do the job, then maybe they need to bid it out to more companies. But really, something needs to be done. We're almost into June, and and the roads. It's almost like that. It's more for convenience for the street sweeper than it is for the necessity of the people that need to get the work done. I have another little thing that I constantly deal with. That's these garage sale signs, John. I'm wondering if the town could maybe, I don't know, have some signs that are registered that the people could come in and get a sign, maybe, I'm at no cost, but that it would be registered and that they would have to come and remove them. I'm tired of removing signs, staples, nails, and everything else, from my property. And I don't know if you could do anything about that or not, but I would like you to look into that. One of the meetings, I forget if it was the planning board or the zoning board meeting, not the volume, but the sound. When I was viewing the meeting at home on 22, the sound was terrible. So I know we had a discussion before about speaking to the videographer and everything, but I think that somebody needs to be able to communicate with the videographer the night that the meeting is being done. Somebody needs to have some input, because to listen to a meeting for a whole month with distorted sound is a little ridiculous, when somebody could communicate with the videographer and eliminate that problem. And regarding the speeding in the lake, I want to thank the efforts that you put forth, that the East Fishkill Police Department is doing. I believe wholeheartedly that they are doing their very best. Unfortunately, in my opinion, they cannot do any more, and it's not enough. And so I would request again that you consider putting speed humps that you go ahead and ask that the speed limit be reduced to the 25, to take whatever steps is necessary to do that. It's something anyway. I was to the rec the other night, and they got what I think are speed bumps when you go in there. Are they speed bumps? Does anybody know if they're speed bumps or humps? Nobody knows? Okay, well, going into the wreck, you almost really have to stop because they got what I think are speed bumps. And I think that they're there for a reason. I think that the reason might be to make the people stop so that they just don't fly in there because there were people walking, playing, etc. And if there's a reason that they could be at the wreck, I don't see a reason that they can't be where in another place that they're warranted, because it will serve the same purpose where I'm requesting it as it does at the rec center. So, you know, these guys cannot be there 24/7. And while there is some improvement with the speeding, the reduction of the speeding, it's not enough, John. It is just not enough. If you had somebody that could be there 24 hours in two places, you know, round the clock, I'd say in a month's time, maybe we could get results. But I don't believe they have enough time to put into what's going on over there to achieve what's really necessary to be achieved. And that's about it. But again, I want to tell you, I really appreciate the effort. I am a little dissatisfied with not being able to have a dialogue when we come up to this podium, because, you know, to make a comment and get an okay, thank you, and not really get anybody's view on anything, again, I don't think that's really the right way to go about it. And again, you know, we don't have to have a big lengthy discussion, but I don't see why a question has to be answered in your office. Something that gets stated publicly, I think that the public should be able to hear a response to it. And I would urge the rest of the council members to consider that and maybe speak to John, and so that we can have some dialogue up here, because the only way to get any resolve really with anything is with a little bit of dialogue. Thank you.
My name is Steve Caswell, and I'm a member of the Julie's Jungle Board of Directors. And I just want to thank the board tonight for passing the resolution on this Julie's Jungle project. Passing this resolution tonight is an important step in making this playground a reality so that all kids of all abilities can play on one playground together. So again, thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Curzio. I want to address several issues this evening. First, I was disappointed with the decision by the supervisor to bring down a curtain in front of the eyes of the voters by refusing to allow the broadcasting of the Wappinger School Board candidate forum on Channel 22. In an election that has low turnout to begin with, it was, in my view, a bad judgment call that prevented many voters from making an educated decision, and hopefully the supervisor will encourage more open and public debate in the future. Second, to carry through on the quality of life counting of trees while we are currently $24 million in debt is troubling, since this is a grant that has Agenda 21 ties to it, which in the future could cause legal problems for the town of East Fishkill, much like Westchester County has seen over the past 5 years in the courts against the federal government. And the same thing with the bonds taken by the federal and state governments. Councilman Marinaro is right. And finally, I believe that it is important to address an issue with Councilman Nicholas D'Alessandro. The councilman is currently up for re-election while also starring on taxpayer-provided town news spotlight on East Fishkill. Intentionally or not, this provides the councilman an unfair advantage and is a conflict of interest at best and an ethical problem at worst. In the interest of good government, I hope the councilman ceases to star in the program. Thank you.
Good evening, Anthony DeLullo. Again, I just want to go back to the public pension system here in New York, because this is something that affects every single taxpayer. We need to draw attention to it. And one of two things have to happen after I explain just what Dutchess County pays alone in their pension. So for the 2014 modified budget, they have out $22 million in change for their public pension contributions. For their health insurance, it's $26,545,000. That's $48 million. $48 million. You annualize that over 10 years, that's $480 million in Dutchess County. Now, if you take that even higher to the state of New York, April 1st through 1994 through March 13th of 2014, 31st, you could find this right on their website. Employee contributions were $5.8 billion, while the state municipalities, aka us, the taxpayers, $41.4 billion. $41.4 billion going to the retirement fund of people that we may never even have the benefit of serving us. It's nonsense. It's absolutely nonsense. And this is the only conversation to be had when we have high taxes here in New York State. It's disgusting. I just can't see it in a Republican Dutchess County controlled legislature where we're okay with this. These numbers have to come down. It's getting annoying for me looking someone 30 years the elder of mine and saying it's either you're going to have to get used to a drastically reduced lifestyle or you have to leave the state. Imagine telling someone that you have to leave the state where you grew up because your taxes are $10,000, $12,000, $13,000 and you don't have Medicare paid for the rest of your life. That's where the health insurance comes into big play too. So please, one of two things that we have to have a conversation about. One is either letting the state employees or municipal employees pay the pension themselves. No more town contributions. Or number two, return it. Give them their money back and let them invest it like the rest of us. And see how difficult it is to create steady retirement income that's not protected by the taxpayer in a downturn where we have to pick up the tab. It's draining the private sector dry. We do not have benefits like this on our side. The Constitutional Convention takes place in 2017. I tried making a meeting with State Senator Sue Serino, and I went to her office in Poughkeepsie just to let anyone know if they want to go up there. It's not in Poughkeepsie, it's in Hyde Park, and they failed to mention that to me. And Jack McKenzie also is not doing a good job of rescheduling with me as well. So it's very difficult to get in charge of these part-time seasonal employees that make $79,500 a year, including their health care and pension costs. So please, young people, if you're here for PIG or anything else, it's either please join in this fight or do everything you can to get into public sector work. It's not easy creating retirement income. You have to do your best to save at an early age, and then you have to ride it out in the market like the rest of us. Or you can go on this side and have it protected by the taxpayer and have us foot the bill for the health insurance too. Thank you.
Anthony, I want to thank you for addressing this, and I feel your frustration.
Excuse me, is there anybody else to speak first? Anybody else in the audience, just so we can close the public, anybody else in the audience like to speak on any Channel Town issues?
John, I'm
No,
sorry.
I just wanted to make sure, because we all have things to say, so I think we should close the public part, and now we can speak, because although you would like to speak, I would like to speak also. So now, Councilman, you have the floor. Thank you.
Well, I like the dialogue with the people. I don't know if we change
Well, I
the
understand
format.
that. I understand
here.
that. Maybe we should discuss maybe time
going on.
limits.
I'm sorry?
I see the dialogue in the past has gone on for a long, long time. Maybe time limits is the answer. How would the
Well,
board
he-
feel?
he made
Would the
an
board feel with
intelligent
time limits?
presentation.
Something we'll consider then. Why don't we consider that other government agencies use time limits, and then we can have the, so I'll look into something like that. Absolutely.
Well, to answer you, Anthony, I want to thank you for addressing all of your concerns. All the issues that you presented are very important for the future, not only of our town, East Fishkill, Dutchess County, the state of New York, which is the 50th state in the union, the most taxed. And you're right, everybody's leaving New York State. As soon as they could collect their pensions, they're going to where their money really makes an effort for a good living. I would like to keep this conversation going because we want to engage with you and people like yourself to really bring the message to our local politicians, starting with our local board, and working your way out, and try to sit with them and engage in this conversation. How can we reduce the tax burden, not only to our senior citizens in this community that can't make ends meet, but also to the private business owners that can't afford to keep their doors open in the state anymore. So subsidizing jobs, our Governor Cuomo tried to create jobs, spends I don't know how many millions of dollars, created less than 80 jobs. This is the reality. That's taxpayers' dollars wasted, going to waste. That's what we have to focus on, really, to address to reduce the burden to the taxpayers. And I want to thank you.
I'd like to make a couple comments too. I agree also with Anthony, and I'd like to say that because I agree with him is why for the last 2 years I have been fighting for the local businesses of our town. Whether or not I'm up for re-election or not, I don't think that matters. When I ran for office, I promised I would try and do something to help local businesses, and I'm proud to say that I have. I don't know about other people, but I do what I say. Okay? And Anthony's right. People are leaving. Businesses are closing. So if the town could provide some help at all for our local businesses, then why not? Okay? That's how I feel. Number two, if we should, as a community, try and stop, like Anthony said, so much of these pension benefits and everything else, that's not in our hands, but I agree with you. I could do what I could do on this board. I can't do anything about Wappinger Central School District taxes. I can't do anything about Dutchess County taxes or the state of New York. I'm proud to say that this board has an average tax increase of 1%. 1%. Okay? You could look at it. That's a fact. I've talked to the controller. I've looked at the numbers. 1% is what this board has tax increase year over year. So I feel and I understand what you're saying, Anthony, and I agree. But I think that we do a good job at trying to control our spending. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I had a few things to say. I guess I'm going to have to start the last one and go forward. I'm glad to see that this young gentleman did go to see the state because, as we all know, I mean, you're preaching to the choir here. We have to deal with the New York State pension, which is, I believe, Tom, a New York State Constitution. This is a law. So if I decide not to pay the bill we get from New York State, could be kind of troublesome. I'll put it at that.
Well, the law requires if you employ someone, they have to be offered membership in the pension system. And while there have been some reforms made to the
Tier 6
public
being
employees, the legislature has yet to really address the police and fire pension fund, which is another costly. And up until, I think it's about 15 years ago, all employees even had to contribute. And the governor and the state controller at that time waived it because the market was waived.
That was a huge mistake.
Once you waive a benefit, you can't take it back.
Right.
But they could have done other things. But
would they put it on the town?
We are trapped in that system because we can't offer an alternate pension system. But as Councilman Del Sandro indicated, we have gone out and provided alternate health insurance to our employees, which resulted in several $100,000.
$200,000, yeah, last year.
And so that's something that we constantly work on. And our workers' comp, we're always working on liability insurance. So
Yes, absolutely. We work very hard to keep taxes reasonable. So when you come and you complain to us, we actually all agree with you. The complaints really need to be directed to New York State Senate and the Assembly to get some kind of relief up there. But up there, we know it falls on deaf ears. So this is, and I suppose my theory on building an economic base, a thriving economic base, although it is very difficult to do any such thing in New York State, is really the key to keeping East Fishkill taxes low. Because if we could bring in jobs, we could bring in investment, we can spread this out until New York State or somebody can figure out how they're going to resolve this pension mess that we're in. We don't have the authority to change or not to pay the bill. We are mandated by law to pay the bill. I'm glad you looked into Constitutional Convention because I believe that is the only place it actually can be changed. So although you can, and the odd thing is you're complaining to us, and we could complain to you because we all feel the same way. We understand this. This is nothing lost on us. I don't think there's a day that goes by we try to say to ourselves, how can we do something better? How can we do it cheaper? Why do we have to do it better and cheaper? Because if you look at our graphs, the two biggest expenses are going up have been the pension and the medical. And medical is a union issue, and the is a New York State mandate. So we agree with you 100%. So I'm glad you're going to see Senator Sue Serino. And that's really up in Albany is where some change needs to be taken. What I just don't say is we all agree with you on that one. I did need to go back a little bit. Somebody came in, we were talking, I guess when I was speaking when I first opened up the meeting about this tree counting issue, which some people seem to think it's just kind of a tree counting thing. Again, I'm talking about being responsible to the public, because I don't believe everybody was here in the room when I first started the meeting. But because a few years ago, we had a tree branch fell on a woman in a car and her children, and the insurance company went to court on our behalf, and it ended up court ruled on us, and it would cost the insurance company $750,000. So if you're against, so what I'm trying to say is, I believe it is prudent for us to put together a tree maintenance plan, not an Agenda 21 tree maintenance plan, but you have to protect yourself from liability issues. And by taking a grant from New York State for $20,000, which will enable us to look at the trees in a small area of the town. And as I said before, we have probably 84 acres of recreation. We have 200 miles of town road. It is our responsibility to make sure that these, and you can shake your head no, but it is our responsibility to make sure that these are safe venues. You have to do that. So I know that there are certain people in this room that do not believe in taking grants, but I don't know, you need to start somewhere. When I was in college, they say you can't manage what you can't measure. So with a town 53 square miles, you need to get an idea of the damage to the trees, and you have to get help sometimes from New York State to do this. Is a very large project. Again, $750,000 was a lot for the insurance company to pay, and I'm sure if it happens again, because the first question they asked us was, what is your tree program in the town of East Fishkill? Because you have to recognize these. And Tom, if you talk a little bit about how the court is looking at these.
It's almost like an unfunded mandate, because what happened is up until about 5-6 years ago, the town was absolutely immune unless they had prior written notice of a tree that was defective. And the courts have eroded that by now they're at the point where the standard is, does the town, what reasonable steps has the town taken to ensure the protection of the public? The tree in question wasn't even within the town right-of-way, it was immediately adjoining it. So the courts have expanded it that we're not only liable for trees in our property, but any tree that could fall. So in order to develop protection, if we have a reasonable plan that we know what trees are diseased or in need of trimming, et cetera, and we're actively doing it, as long as it's found reasonable, the town would then be immune from liability for unforeseen risks.
Yeah.
And this is happening all over the state, Long Island, et cetera. And the state legislature, instead of going in and amending the law, granting us immunity again, and changing what the courts have done, have chosen not to, and the DEC now is providing this funding throughout the state because almost by the legislature's inaction, they're costing all the municipalities. I know a town in Westchester was hit with a $1.4 million judgment for a tree that came down, same circumstance, and they're developing plans also now for an ongoing thing. And it's not just the study of the trees, then
you
the
have to
highway
take
department
action.
going out and taking care of them.
Yeah. So it's not an easy task, but it's something that needs to be done. That's on the trees. I did want to mention a couple things. On the sweepers, sweepers are contracted out. They are bid out. The sweepers are out. We had snow right up till probably, I think we still had snow on the ground sometime in April. They got a late start. We get called on this all the time. They're out there. I don't believe there's probably a sweeper in Dutchess County that isn't sweeping some municipality, and they're all getting calls. So it had been a very difficult winter and made more difficult because New York State couldn't supply us the salt that we get by contract, and we ended up using more sand. So it's kind of compounded the problem, and the sweepers are out there, and I can't speak as to when they're going to be done. So that being said, and then one woman did bring up about a councilman vote on the Blue Fountain tax certiorari. And I know, Councilman, you said you had to look at the tape and you had to see how you voted. I don't recall. It's a tax certiorari from back a ways. Something that actually, I mean, we actually did interview somebody for the Ethics Board tonight to fill a position. We could actually submit this to the Ethics Board for their ethical review and get their thoughts on it. And probably would be the best way. It's not for us to say, and I don't think it's anybody, but we could send it to the Ethics Board and see what their response to this is, if this was a proper course of action for you.
I'm sorry, if it was a what?
If that was a proper course of action for you, if indeed you did vote, was that the proper course of action for you?
Okay.
Okay.
While we're talking about ethics, I know that the community has addressed many times certain issues that are they've been brought up. Maybe we should address also that to the Ethics Board. Some of them were brought up tonight. They talk about ethics.
Channel 22?
Correct.
Okay. I did ask, and I did email you a few weeks ago to give me a list.
But the community is asking.
No, I asked you because you brought that to my attention about a month ago, and I did request from you a list, so that's
you can
good.
put that on the list.
Okay.
And you're done with the comments, John, or you're done with your comments?
I'm sorry, what's
Response? You're done?
I've just said that I thought it should go to
I just want to make
the
another
Ethics
comment, if I
Board.
may.
Oh, absolutely. I
Yep.
just said it should go to the Ethics Board.
Tom, while we're discussing unfunded mandates, can you give us an idea of how we come to unfunded mandates and how the town has to?
Well,
deal
sure.
with
I
that?
mean, there's a whole bunch of things. The state of New York, back in the early 80s, adopted a law that said all towns must enforce the New York State Uniform Fire Protection and Building Code. And they standardized it, and they required us to enforce it and to administer it up to a level of their standards. They provide no funding for that. They also recently just started this MS4, the stormwater law, and that comes from the federal government requiring the states to take action to more effectively control stormwater and to make sure it doesn't pollute the water bodies and waterways. And all of those regulations has now come down that the town of East Fishkill is responsible for enforcing it. And the way they do it is that if the town doesn't enforce it, they fine the town. So that's really one of the biggest, newest ones.
As far as the MS4 regulation, is that an actual law that was passed by the Senate, or is it a statute?
Well, what
passed by the
happens
EPA?
is the Congress passed the law, the Clean Water Act, and part of the Clean Water Act is to have the states implement it. And of course, it starts with our drinking water, et cetera, and now they're down to the stormwater. And New York State delegated it to the DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation, who adopts rules, and those are the rules and regulations that we live with.
All right, so this, as you said, came about in the early 80s. So this probably ties in with the fact that grants given to communities, and so the regulation come afterwards with the mandates that the communities have to abide by. That all ties in one into the other.
Well, the mandates, most of them don't come with any dollars. There are a few mandates that you can apply and get a grant for. And
That's why
so
they're unfunded.
I would say
Unfortunately.
it's far more that there isn't any funding available for that we have to pay for it locally.
Right, but when we apply for grants and those grants are given to us, comes with a list of regulations
No. The
that we have
grants,
to...
what happens is that we have the regulations. We have the courts have eroded our immunity with respect to the roadways. So we have to develop a system to protect us on that. DC happened to come up with a grant program to allow communities to get money to do inventories of the trees in public places. So it's not that the court decision came first.
Right, and probably one of the biggest grants given to all the states, I guess, goes under the highway rebuilding, and that was a while back.
Well, during the recession.
And with that, afterwards came the prevailing wages, which, as we all know...
Well, that's an unfunded mandate without any relief.
Correct.
Right.
But first came the funding of highway infrastructures, and then came the ruling that if you weren't using that money, now you have to do prevailing wages.
But in New York State, you have to do prevailing wages whether you have a grant or not, because the legislature years ago said all contracts have to be prevailing wages, and what that is prevailing wages, union wages. And so any contract that's bid by the town, anyone who responds in that bid, whether they're union, non-union, they must pay a prevailing wage set by the state.
That part I understand. I was just bringing the discussion to the origination of this grant and the unfunded mandates. Thanks.
You know, and you just speaking to that, I mean, you can talk about the unfunded mandates. That's the hard unfunded mandates. The soft unfunded mandates is the amount of paperwork that New York State and the federal government requires from us. Reports on annual reports on employee injuries, what kind of injuries, how much lost pay. When you do any of the paperwork, payroll has gotten to be just huge projects. So all of these things, even to hire somebody for a camp counselor for 7 weeks, I think it's like 5 pages they have to fill out. It's mind-boggling. And these are the soft unfunded mandates that are just put down to us. And, you know, I know everybody says, oh, town employees. We work very hard to comply with all of these mandates. We do have very good staff that do that. I'm not sure I agree with the correlation between grants and mandates, but I got to agree with you. There's a whole lot of mandates out there, and it's unfortunate. But some of them make sense. But I think we all see it all seems to go back to New York State not wanting to move to give us our immunity for the tree liability issues and things like that, which I think the state could help us out. It would be very much appreciated. Anybody else?
You have a quick comment. Last night, our video specialist, Mike Miner, and I tried to cover another Little League baseball game and put it on Channel 22. We had this date planned for about a week, and Mike was there early setting up for the 5:30 game. He called me earlier in the day to watch the weather because the equipment that he uses for the games are his own, and he was concerned that the rain would ruin them. The game started on time as the clouds and thunder rolled in, and Mike could have packed up well before the game started because everybody knew that the storm was coming, but he didn't. He stayed to the very last moment, even after the umpires called the kids off the field because of the thunder. In the short time that Mr. Miner has been employed by the town, he has taken Channel 22 to new heights by expanding programming. He has covered nearly every event for the town of East Fishkill and put it up on Channel 22 in a timely manner. From fun events such as fishing derbies, Halloween parades, and Little League games, to holiday ceremonies, spotlight on East Fishkill, and covering our local government. If he can't cover an event, he sends one of his staff to tape and covers their cost out of his own pocket, not East Fishkill's. Mike Miner is exactly what the town of East Fishkill deserves, a professional.
Thank you, and I'd have to agree. He does a terrific job, and he really makes Channel 22 a really very good station. Anybody else?
Just
Couple quick things. I did speak with Dennis Monday or Tuesday, I believe. He's hoping within the next 2 weeks the entire town will be swept. He's down to 2 sweepers. He's not been able to get a 3rd sweeper since when I spoke to him 2 weeks ago. He has not gotten, by next week he's hoping to finish Lake Walton and Hopewell and be into Hillside Lake within a week, next week from last Monday. Within 2 weeks he plans on being in Hillside Lake. So hopefully 2 weeks from tonight when we meet again, you'll be done and with Hillside Lake. And I'd like to thank the building department for going out and picking up all the signs. In case people didn't know, the school board election is over. If you see any of their signs on the road, please feel free to pick them up. If you were a person that was running for the position, it is your responsibility to have it picked up. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Also, that being said, I would like to thank the Sons of Italy for their Memorial Day observance, and I'd also like to thank our American Legion Post, 1758, Manny Bacon Post, and the East Fishkill Community Chorus for the town Memorial Day ceremony. I really appreciated that, and it's really good to see both organizations come out and remember those who did not return from the field of battle. Anything else? You're done. Sorry, that part's gone. But we'll talk about, why don't we talk about if we could, and let me just make this statement. I agree with you about the back and forth. The meetings had gotten very long. If the board would like to, if we could adopt a time limit, I think that would make things flow a little bit better. So if the board would consider that, we could look at something like that.
John, I just have a few other comments after what was made up there.
So we're done, Bob. We're done, but next month.
Why are we done? Why
Because I think that part, we've closed that part of the agenda. We had moved on. Yeah, we closed that.
Well, you know.
Yeah, sorry. What is it now?
The way it was closed, I was waiting for anybody else that had anything to say, but I do want to comment on a couple of things that were said. Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely. If you'd like to, I mean, we're getting back to what we were trying to, but absolutely, if you'd like to make some comments, what we'll do then, absolutely.
I'll make it quick.
Yep.
Of course, I think this is important. Talking about ethics and unethical, I really think that Mike Minor really, and again, don't misunderstand. I think that it's good, you know, for the town, for the children, for the games and everything. I think it's pretty unethical that a guy that works for the town is going to go and do free work with 2 council members. I think that's unethical, okay? I don't know where Mike Minor's interest is in endorsing anybody. Huh?
He doesn't have an interest. He doesn't live in town. He doesn't live in
Okay.
town.
Well,
And he's not
I think that I think it's wrong that he's doing that. As far as you made mention about bringing Manny's issue up to the ethical committee. I thought I heard the man say that the council members say that he wasn't sure what was said. If he did, he apologized. Why would somebody look to pursue that any further? And if we're going to pursue things further, then I want to address, I think that Nick, when it comes to signs or anything else that's going to benefit a business, that Nick or anybody else that has a business ought to recuse themselves. Leave that up to somebody else. I don't think that a council member should be voting on signs, what might accommodate their business. That's unethical. And I don't get offended too easy, but you addressed some things that Mr. Curcio had to say, the other gentleman here had to say. When you said that there'll be no dialogue or anything, the things that I commented about you had nothing to say. To me, they're important to get some sort of response. You gave responses to these two gentlemen, and my concerns, I don't know where we stand. I know where you stand with what he said, and I know where you stand with where John said, but to pick and choose what's going to be advantageous for anybody up there to speak about, it's not right. We're either going to do it across the board or we don't do it at all. That's it. Thanks, John. Oh, one last thing. I do want to thank the Lieutenant Orsino for all his efforts. I neglected to mention that in trying to get him resolved to the speeding issue in Hillside Lake. I don't know of anybody that could have put more effort into it than what he's doing or done. Thank you.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn the town board meeting?
So moved.
Till the 11th June. The next meeting is June 11th, a workshop. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carried. Thank you very much.